Hey everybody, Warren Buffett just released his latest letter to Berkshire Hathaway shareholders. We're going to talk all about it. Tyler Crowe is joining me. Before we dive in, please take a minute and check out the link you see on your screen, fool.com/Frankel. Get the top 10 stocks to buy right now from the Motley Fool. It is the best way to support this work we're doing here on YouTube. Again, fool.com/Frankel. So I'll go ahead and kick it off with the first key takeaway, and this is something that has been a recurring theme in Buffett's letters over the years, is the importance of acknowledging your mistakes when you're investing. This is what he led the discussion with, saying we make mistakes at Berkshire, pointing out that, quote, during the 2019 to 2023 period, I have used the words mistake or error 16 times in my letters to you. He gave credit to one other company for acknowledging mistakes, and that was Amazon, that did the same thing a couple years ago. But for the most part, saying that those words are even like banned in certain companies. You can't say mistake. You have to spin everything in a positive way. And Buffett really doesn't do that. I'm trying to think. A recent mistake was the airline investments, I believe, was one that he called a mistake. He said they overpaid for Precision Cast Parts, the last big acquisition they made. He said it's a great company. We just overpaid. IBM was another example of a company that they said they overpaid for the stock. So there have been quite a few. I'm sure there are some big ones that I'm forgetting.
Kraft Heinz.
Kraft Heinz, that's the big one, saying that that was a mistake to make. And they make some, and all companies will make some. And after Buffett's gone, Greg Abel and Ajit Jain and Ted and Todd, they're going to make mistakes too. But acknowledging them is a big part of the Berkshire culture, something that's really refreshing to see as a shareholder, and something that honestly has really helped me be a better investor is to acknowledge my mistakes and learn from them. A lot of investors I know have a really, call it like a weird desire or a weird need to be right all the time. I'm sure Tyler knows quite a few of those as well. I'm not one of those. I don't say I love admitting when I make a mistake. I don't love telling people that I sold Tesla 2 years after its IPO. I don't love talking about mistakes like that, but I use those to learn from them and make myself better. If I hadn't made that mistake and acknowledged it and learned from it, you know, I wouldn't have kept some of my biggest winners in my portfolio. Like Berkshire was one of my first stocks I bought. I didn't sell it after it doubled or tripled in my portfolio. The reason for that is because I had made that mistake in the past. There are other examples other than Berkshire where that happened, but so that's a big thing, that big theme of this year's letter. But Tyler, what stood out to you?
I mean, that was obviously one of them too. And not because it was something novel. This is something that Warren Buffett has been talking about for years. And in that same vein, it's like the letter is almost a reaffirmation of investing to me and like the views on certain things, because one of the things that always is disseminated in his letters and the way he talks and the way he writes these is he very much still treats the CEO position of Berkshire Hathaway as he is the steward of this business for his shareholders. And there aren't a lot of, I would say, people in investing or leaders of companies, I think, that share that sort of view of what this is. The shareholders are the owners of the business. They are the ones who, the CEO should report to them through the board of directors. This is who it is. Like he really does care about who his shareholders are, and wants to, he feels like he's somewhat directly responsible for the accumulation of their wealth and savings over time. And so there's not a lot of people that talk like that in boardrooms anymore. It seems like, we get a lot of rock star founder CEOs who, I don't know, it sometimes feels like they treat the CEO position or their leadership as, or they treat their shareholders like, you're lucky to have me in your life. And that often comes with things like really, really high stock-based compensation, and sometimes doing things that aren't necessarily reflective of growing shareholder value for their investors. One of Buffett's mentors was Benjamin Graham. I've got his book just over my shoulder over here. One of the things that there's a lot of, like, I would say, outdated examples, and probably some information that maybe not necessarily applicable today when it comes to certain components of valuation or things like that. But the most important thing that is the takeaway that I get when I like reread or kind of skim through Benjamin Graham's The Intelligent Investor ever again is it's a constant reminder: you are the shareholder. You own this company. The people work for you. It's your job to, hold them accountable for the business. Be very active in proxy votings. As futile as it may seem, with a multi-trillion-dollar company that has billions of shares out there, and you may only have a select few, but treat your role as the owner of the company as if you owned the whole thing. And evaluate your management in that way, and be scrutinous of their pay packages, be scrutinous of the decisions that they make, and always look for management teams that are honest with you, because if they're willing to, put lipstick on a pig to make you sound like everything's awesome, that means they might be hiding some other things too that maybe are slightly a little less savory. So the Berkshire letter for me has always been a reaffirmation that he is a one of one in this business, that, does something like this, that when his time it comes to an end, I will probably miss that more than anything else.
Yeah, so before we sign off right quick, I wanted to just quickly get your thoughts on the changes to the Berkshire meeting this year, because to me, that was one of the more significant parts of the letter. It's really subtle, but a few little changes here. One, there's no shareholder movie, which I would have missed if I was going to Omaha this year. That was always a fun part of the morning meeting. And the Q&A session is going to be significantly shorter. It usually goes till, I forget if it was 4 or 5 in the afternoon, but it was late afternoon, and now they're going to cut it off at 1. It kind of feels like Buffett's setting this up that this might be his last meeting. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm also maybe going to give him a little bit of grace. He is in his mid-90s, and maybe he can't sit and do a whole 8-hour meeting in those very, very uncomfortable chairs at the the stadium in Omaha, Nebraska. I mean, even for us, we're sitting there and kind of moving back and forth in our seats. I think there's a little bit of that. I think perhaps the movie part as well. Maybe he just wasn't up for it. The nice thing about a letter is you get to take it as long as you want with it to get it all done. So I'm going to give him a little bit of grace on a couple of those things. Maybe he just wasn't up for it anymore. But I am actually a little bit in the agreement that there's quite a few hints that things are different for a reason. And I think it might be because Warren may finally, after, for as long, it seems like for 30 years, people have been asking, well, when are you guys going to retire? Or, what happens when you're gone? And it seems like, now, so more so than ever, it looks like he's laying the foundation for his last days.
Yeah, and I mean, you make a really good point there. After 8 hours in those seats at that arena, I feel like I'm in my mid-90s. I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. The Motley Fool is a company that provides investing insight and stock recommendations for investors of all skill sets and risk levels. You all know how much I love researching new stocks and trying to find the next best investments. So I'm proud to partner with The Motley Fool to bring you 10 stock picks from their popular product, Stock Advisor. Stock Advisor has beaten the market more than 5 times. Go to fool.com/Frankel to get your 10 stock picks now. The Motley Fool Stock Advisor returns are 914% as of January 7th, 2025, and are measured against the S&P 500 returns of 174% as of January 7th, 2025.